This is Sabbath School summary in about 5 minutes or less. The memory text for this week is this. Then Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Oh, these people have committed a great sin and have made for themselves a god of gold. Yet now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, I pray, blot me out of your book, which you have written." You find that in Exodus chapter 32, verses 31 and 32. The memory text reveals the essence of what we're studying right now, that the people have made a mistake, and Moses places himself between the people and the consequence to their lives, that while Moses was on Mount Sinai, he's receiving the law. Israel violates the covenant. After witnessing the plagues, the Red Sea, the crossing, the voice of God at Sinai, they still fashion a golden calf. Can you picture that moment? Their apostasy was not out of ignorance, it was rather out of rebellion. The covenant was still fresh. The commandments were recently given, yet what do? They return to their idols. So this week's lesson asks, how does God respond to covenant betrayal? And how does true intercession reflect His character? Jumping right into Sunday, we see the failed leadership in Aaron. In Exodus 32, 1 through 6 reveals a failure of spiritual leadership. Aaron, the high priest, chosen by God Himself, he failed. He capitulated to popular demand. Instead of standing for truth, he facilitated the sin. Not only he gathered the gold, but he also fashioned the idol. The people then attributed their salvation to this image. You know, the Bible tells us that Israel exclaimed, "This is your God, O Israel, that you brought out of Egypt." This is a theological treason in many ways. You're giving glory that's due to Yahweh, to your Redeemer, to a created object. Friends, leadership without conviction leads to compromise. Aaron's failure wasn't just passive, it was participatory in idolatry. Finally, we see in Monday this idolatry and the evil that took place in Exodus 32, verse 6, along with Romans chapter 1, 22 through 27. It shows how false worship leads to moral corruption, because Paul writes, professing to be wise, they became what? They became fools. I'm reading from Romans chapter 1, verses 22 and 23, a summary. They became fools and exchanged, notice this, and exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for an image. Israel's idolatry reversed the creation order. Instead of imagining and imaging and reflecting God, they made God into an image. The worship of this golden calf was not just theological error, it led to this moral collapse of the entire community. Ellen White describes the scene as a revival of Egyptian lifestyle, their feasts and their way of living, because false worship will reshape your character and who you are. Worshiping creation instead of the Creator will always deform your moral clarity and your moral compass. Of course, on Tuesday, we see this compass being corrupted, as the title is, corrupting themselves. God says to Moses in Exodus 32, verses 7 and 8, they have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside what? Quickly. Corruption here is not mere disobedience to an action, but a severing rather of a covenant identity. God told them, "I am the God who brought you out of Egypt. I am yours." Yet they gave all the credit to this lifeless idol. Modern idols may not be golden calves, but whatever captures our trust, our time, our affections more than God Himself can become an idol in our lives. Remember, idolatry is covenant unfaithfulness. It breaks this relationship with the true God and will substitute Him with this self-made religion. And I will close this, and I hope that you study this lesson to see how phenomenal this is as I look at our time, closing right at about 5 minutes. that Moses, in a way, was a type of Christ. That although the people had sinned and they had broken the covenant, Moses said, take my life instead. Where Moses, descends and he sees the idol, he breaks the tablet, symbolizing the covenant itself being broken. He calls for judgment. The Levites respond, 3,000 fall. There is so much pain and suffering. Friends, mercy does not ignore justice. God's grace is not sentimental. It's just, it's holy, it's covenantal. He's calling you today, even though we may have built an idol or a golden calf. God calls you today and right now to receive His forgiveness of sin, to have a new life, regardless of what idol you've built. Allow Him to build a tabernacle in your life and in your heart so that He may dwell in you and with you. This is Sabbath School in about 5 minutes.